one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. Janet, will you roll call again?
Yes. Trustee Stalf?
Here.
Trustee Rhodey?
Here.
Trustee Belt?
Here.
Trustee Kreiser?
Here.
Trustee Grabowski?
Here.
President Knutson?
Here.
Trustee Pater is excused.
Okay. We have two public hearings this evening. First one is public hearing on ordinance 2025-05, an ordinance to create section 40.109C of the municipal code of village regarding reasonable accommodations through special zoning permit waivers. I hereby open up the public hearing. Is there anybody here that would like to make a comment? There is no one in the room, so we will close the public hearing.
You guys aren't no one. Just
Yeah,
want
no
that to the record.
citizens.
Item B, public hearing on ordinance 2025-06, an ordinance amending section 40.419E1 of the municipal code of the village of Pewaukee, revising offsets for accessory structures. Again, I open up the public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to make a comment? Again, there are no citizens here other than people that are here for other meeting items. So I close the public hearing. Sorry about that. Approval of the previous meeting dated May 20th, 2025, the special village board meeting. Do I have, hope everybody's taken a look at them. Are there any questions, comments, corrections as the way they are presented this evening? If not, I'll look for a motion to approve as presented then.
Motion to approve meeting minutes as presented.
Second, Rhodey.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is hereby, meetings are hereby adopted. Minutes from the May 20th, 25 regular village board meeting. Again, any questions, comments, corrections as the way they are presented this evening? If not, again, I will look for a motion to approve as presented.
Motion to approve as presented, Rhodey.
Second, Grabowski.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Regular village board meeting minutes are hereby adopted. Citizen comments. There are no citizens here this evening, so we will move on to ordinance number 5. Review, discussion, and possible action on ordinance 2025-05, an ordinance to create the section 40.109C of the municipal code of the village of Pewaukee regarding reasonable accommodation through special zoning permit waivers. Matt, could I have your discussion on that?
Thank you, President Knutson. This item arose from previous action at a plan commission meeting where a resident in the village required a handicap accessible ramp to be added to their home. And because of zoning code at the time, they had to go through the conditional use grant process, which is an approximate 6 to 8 week process, along with some expenses, financial expenses that accompany that. When the Plan Commission considered this request, they directed staff to propose a revision to zoning code so that in the case of handicap accommodations, the code could now grant staff some additional authority so that handicapped residents wouldn't have to go through this process anymore.
Any questions or comments? Bob?
Suggestion makes complete sense. Somebody suffering from disabilities that require a handicap ramp, they should be able to get it on a as quickly as they can. Again, we've got the overview of the village administrator as part of the process. If he has any questions, it can still go in front of the planning commission. But this proposal makes complete sense. It's good government.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments? I will look for a motion then.
Motion to to create section 40.109 of the Municipal Code of the Village of Pewaukee regarding the reasonable accommodations through the special zoning permit waivers.
Second, Grabowski.
Okay, we have a motion and a second discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ordinance 2025-05 is hereby adopted. Review, discussion, and possible action on 2025-06, an ordinance amending section 40.419E1 of the Municipal Code of Village revising offsets for accessory structures. Again, Matt?
Thank you, President Knudsen. This item as well is generated by previous Plan Commission activity. We had a village resident who applied for an accessory structure in their backyard, a standard storage shed that was purchased at a local hardware do-it-yourself retailer. And because they wanted to put it at a certain distance to their lot line, it required they go through, again, the conditional use grant process, which again is 6 to 8 weeks, and it carries with it some financial expenses. And so when the Plan Commission reviewed this and thought it was a fairly routine request, they requested that staff review other communities and see what kind of revisions could be made to make this piece a little bit more streamlined. And over the course of some deliberations, the Plan Commission's recommending a version that is similar to the city of Pewaukee, where given a certain size of an accessory structure, if it's 200 square feet or smaller, it can be a little closer to the lot line, and it doesn't require to go through that extra process.
Any questions or comments? Bob?
Again, this falls under good government again, in my mind. This situation and the specific instance that was brought up by the village administrator, you had a resident who had purchased at roughly $3,000 cost, a decent quality shed from a Home Depot or Menards type setup, and had to pay almost $1,500 in permits and fees to put that $3,000 shed up. Okay, so by looking at this ordinance, we're able to alleviate some of those issues, so it doesn't require impact fees. It'll still require a permit, but will not require the fees that were garnered against this person. So again, good government in my mind.
Any other questions or comments? Well, then I will look for a motion.
Make a motion to approve ordinance amending section 40.419E1 of the municipal code.
Second, Kaiser.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance 2025-06 is hereby adopted. Review, discussion, and possible action on ordinance 2025-07, an ordinance to repeal and recreate Chapter 98, Article 4 of the Municipal Code of Village of Pewaukee regarding the Aquatic Weed Commission. Matt?
Thank you, President Knudsen. At a previous village board meeting, President Knudsen had, among his list of various committee appointments, also an appointment to the Aquatic Weed Commission. And when staff was preparing that packet and memo, Attorney Grolinsky looked into the existing ordinance and found some elements of it that were out of date and some other elements out of it that were inconsistent with current village practices. So this is Attorney Grolinsky's proposal to clean up that chapter.
Are there any yes, Jim?
I do have one question on the redlining, and not to undermine Attorney Grolinsky, but right at the start where we have struck persons of recognized experience and qualifications, why would we strike that? Is that an effort to just put anyone on the board? Because I would rather see it stay vacant if they're not qualified.
It was struck due to vagueness, in my opinion. I did not know what that term meant, and we don't use it to qualify any other committee appointments in the village.
Yeah, I suppose that's been my issue with some of the boards in the past where I feel people might not have been the most qualified for, not saying President Knudsen, I'm saying prior administration. So, okay, I was just curious on that about why we would strike that specific
No,
word.
the intent was not to put unqualified people on the board. The intent was to,
Or at least open the door for unqualified.
correct, the intent was to strike it for vagueness and leave that determination as to experience and qualifications to the natural appointment process with the village president and the confirmation of the village board.
Got it, okay.
If I could just make one more comment, just to bring it to the board's attention. So the original text of the ordinance had the commission being composed of 3 resident members and 1 village board member. And the village president noted that that amounted to an equal number of people. And so staff changed the proposal before you to have 4 resident members along with the 1 village board member. So it'd be an uneven number in the case of a vote.
Makes sense.
Are there any other questions or comments? Could I get a motion then for ordinance 2025-07?
I will make a motion to approve ordinance, sorry, I don't have it now up in front of me because I scrolled off of it,
2507.
of 2507.
Second, Rhodey.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance 2025-07 is hereby adopted. Resolution, review, discussion, and possible action on resolution 2025-08, a resolution establishing a per diem rate for citizen members of the Aquatic Weed Commission. Matt, again.
Thank you, President Knudsen. This resolution makes or treats the citizen and non-elected members of the Aquatic Weed Commission the same as the other boards and commissions recently adopted, where it provides the per diem, the $20 per meeting.
Do we need a motion for that?
Yes, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the per diem rate for the Aquatic Weed Commission citizen members as to match the other boards.
Second, Grabowski.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion, resolution 2025-08 is hereby adopted. Review and discussion and possible action on median extensions at the railroad crossing as part of the East Capitol Road project. Would you like David to or Matt?
I'll defer to the chair of the Public Works and Safety Committee.
Okay, I had asked for this to be put on the agenda. The Director of Public Works is here to fact check me and give content if needed. But we had discussed on our last meeting the update for the 2025 road projects, specifically the one that's going to affect East Capitol Drive. We're looking at repaving from Quick Trip to the tracks. With that, as you guys are aware, the crossing at Oakton, there, the median section of it. There's a specific reason I wanted to bring this up onto the agenda, because we had originally, as a Public Works Board, promoted the idea of including those median extensions as part of this repaving job, because at the time, WISDOT and everyone else was kind of giving us the runaround, and they said, you know, maybe we'll get to it. If you guys do a road project, maybe we'll get to it sooner type thing. So we said, let's go ahead with East Capitol Drive, get the medians taken care of, and put this matter to bed. Unfortunately, it seems to have snowballed a little bit in the fact that it came back now as our options being we either do it this year with the project or WISDOT will do it next year. However, lately it has now grown in the length of the median to match the Federal Railroad Commission's latest decree to the village. And this is the reason I wanted it brought to this board, because this isn't so much for action tonight as it is for discussion and brainstorming for future meetings, because the extent that they want us to extend those medians now we'll remove the left turn from Capitol onto Capitol. So if you're coming from the park to head towards 16, you can no longer turn left. And if you're coming off Clark Street, you can no longer turn left onto Oakton. So we've basically just routed all traffic from the north side of the lake, if you want to get to 16, down past the beach. So in the Railroad Commission's infinite wisdom of eliminating a potential safety concern there, my personal opinion is that they're creating a massive safety concern in our downtown, which we've been trying to address for the past decade. Not to mention the amount of citizen uproar that this is going to create. I mean, we're still taking punches in the dark over the no left turns that are there now that we had no say in. So it is my recommendation that we don't just roll over and say, well, there's nothing we can do about it. You know, I'm not saying we did that with the no left turns that are there now, but that's realistically what it came down to was, hey, we had nothing to do with this. We weren't part of that project. Someone else funded it, all this stuff. This is outside of the quiet zone application, as noted in here. You know, we can still proceed and apply for the quiet zone. The DPW board directed DPW to eliminate the medians out of this year's proposed street project. Because the option that was basically given to us, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, but you guys could do it now, or we will do it for you next year in 2026. So there's no way I'm gonna use our money to inconvenience our residents. Plus this way it gives us a year to approach this strategically and maybe try to find another avenue, no pun intended, I guess, around the situation. Because this, I don't want to say catastrophic, but this could be very, very detrimental to the quality of our residents.
The one thing that really bothers me about this intersection is that whatever we do there has an effect on our flexibility and our ability to do anything downtown.
Correct.
Whether that's closing the downtown
Correct.
on weekends or doing one-way streets.
Correct.
We cannot do those things until this situation at this intersection is fixed.
So that was what I was, you know, it came up at the meeting as well, because if you eliminate left turns possible there, there's no more shutting down Main Street. It's not possible from a fire EMS situation or a police response. The other concern it creates is if, let's say, a larger truck does come down past the park, they're not going to be able to make that sharp of a right turn, and now you can't make a left turn. So they're essentially tying up that entire street. And then the only option is routing them through quiet residential zones to go around it. And that's not an option anywhere in my mind. So as I said, there's nothing we can really take action on now. This is a informational fact finding. We can do discussion on it. You know, I'd love to get your guys' opinion on it. Obviously, I'm sure Dave would want to get your opinion on it and staff as well, because this is big. This isn't simply adding a stop sign or complying with an order to be good soldiers. So did I do it justice, or is there anything? So, yeah.
Can you fill me in on what the plan is for the future?
It's in the packet.
But can you just summarize it for me quick?
Yeah, so where the existing median is, and then those plastic bollards, so it would be replacing the plastic bollards with concrete, but it would then be taking it further than that to eliminate any potential turning within the railroad right away.
Right. That's happening no matter what, is what you're saying.
As of right now, the latest we heard from them is we can choose to chop off our own arm in this project, or next year they'll chop it off for us. But as I said, you know, when they came in and they redesigned this and did the grant to redo the gates and improve the safety, and they took out that right turn and they put up the no left turns and all that, you know, we took a pretty good beating out there in the general public, and all our response was, well, we didn't have a say in it. You know, we sent a certified letter to the Federal Railroad Commission asking them not to, or to consider something different, and they responded to like some of our applicants did earlier. So, I don't think we could take that same response in this one. And I don't know what avenue that is. That's gonna be to be determined between staff and Attorney Gerlinski, but this one might require a fight. Because, like I said, this severely impacts the quality of life of our residents, the safety of our downtown, and the overall just community.
So we're going to attempt to fight them putting in an extension and a permanent median there.
A permanent median, or I'm sorry, I would be fine with just keeping status quo as we have it right now. Everyone seemed to have lived with it. We know how to operate it when we shut down the downtown, all of that. You can still make the left turn from the park going towards Capitol or going towards 16. You know, that we've learned as a society how to exist with that. If we extend that median further like they wish and eliminate that left turn, you know, the Clark Street one is an inconvenience for a few people. It's already been an inconvenience taking the left turn onto Clark away. We've had petitions on that one. But that one doesn't eliminate our ability to shut down Main Street downtown, though. The big one in my eyes is that Capitol Drive one. I mean, we already know everyone wishes that we can have it closed down or a one-way or something to create a little bit more safety, a little more room down there. I mean, that is gone up in smoke if this happens. And then even just weekend events, we're talking no more.
Personally, that left turn from Capitol on the Capitol, I take a few times a day.
It's tough.
It's very dangerous. Very dangerous.
Yeah, but I don't think they're going about it, because this is coming down from the Federal Railroad Commission. They're not going about it of just like a regular general traffic safety. I think they're looking at it just from eliminating that within their corridor.
Right.
Like WISDOT might have an issue, you know, so is that the first step of getting a traffic study done to see how many cars are taking that route and all that stuff, you know? Do I think there needs to be improvements there? Sure. Can we explore stop signs like we do when we shut down downtown, you know, and to try to make that turn a little safer?
Or even like a light.
Yeah, I mean, we've got to start brainstorming. We got to start brainstorming quick, because before we know it, WISDOT's going to be out there doing this. So sorry to be doom and gloom, but that's why I said, I was like, this can't wait any longer. The board has to be brought up to speed on it.
Like if it was a light, lights operate with the railroad, right?
Yeah, so you don't stop on the tracks. But then, I mean, everything's gonna come at a cost for us, basically. Because it's either gonna be legal fighting costs, or it's gonna be physical infrastructure costs.
But we're discussing quality and safety of our community.
So cost shouldn't be an issue.
Right.
I mean, you're spot on there. I mean, regardless of what, if you take out the downtown festivals in the summer and everything like that, I mean, there goes a lot of people's reason to live here. And so, yeah.
That's all so
There
we
goes
can
a
have
lot
a
of
quiet
reason.
train.
What's that, Kelly?
No, go ahead, no, sorry. Go ahead.
That's all to have a quiet train.
No, this is outside of the quiet zone.
That's, okay, that's just for improving the safety barriers.
Correct.
And then in addition, okay.
As the engineer noted, those medians there are sufficient enough to apply for the quiet zone. The other reason, unfortunately, this is now out in the public, the other reason why I wanted to bring this up early enough is so that we are still gung-ho, full steam ahead on that quiet zone. This is outside of it. But this is something we have to plan for beyond the quiet zone application.
So what do we do?
Good question.
Get the pitchforks out? I don't know. I mean, that's directly impacting the safety of my family on that intersection, big time. So,
Yeah, so everyone from basically the new development over, who wouldn't be taking a right and going to Ryan, is impacted.
We also have summer camp down there with another 400 families going to Village over the summer. How do we go about looking at like a DOT options and pricing them?
Traffic studies or, so reaching out to R.A. Smith?
I mean, one option would be like relocating that intersection to the east. That's possibly one intersection. That's gonna be expensive because you have to buy multiple properties.
Right. So I think
That's
that,
a realistic option.
I mean, is the first step though, at least getting a traffic study done so we have some empirical data to back up claims?
Yeah, you could hire an engineer to come up with some alternatives. I mean, a traffic study, they need to know exactly what to do when you tell them to do a traffic study.
I mean, just so we get a count of cars that are through there to say, is it justified if, you know, we know it's not the case, but if we say 17 cars turn left there a day, we go, well, this is much to do about nothing. But, I mean, I'm wondering how many hundreds of cars go, I know, I was just saying, I wonder how many hundreds of cars go through there a day.
And there is seasonality to it.
Correct.
Yeah.
So obviously, the sooner we can get that rolling, the better, because that's gonna give us a bigger picture, or a better picture, because we want to base it off of summer numbers.
Well, and does the railroad,
Are they giving us an option? No. Do we have to find an option? Yes.
so, I mean, is it like, would like a traffic light be an option? Because if, I could see why a light would be considered more effective to them than a stop sign, because it
Right.
can coordinate with their system. Would that be something we can at least inquire with them about, if that's an option instead, as opposed to the median? I don't know who talks to these people.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I don't think we've had much luck speaking with them, so I don't know, is that attorney side, is that administrator side?
Well, yeah, it would start with staff. We can start there. Between Dave and myself, we can start a dialogue with the DOT.
I mean, we can obviously pull reports from EMS too, right? Of any kind of, how many incidents happened at that intersection?
Yeah, police have records of all accidents and such.
This is really begging for a short-term solution but then a big, long-term solution.
Correct.
It's possible there's grants for things like that. Because the village doesn't want to take on that major, that's a huge.
That's a big expense.
But maybe because it's safety related, there's multiple different types of safety grants out there to include buy all that.
Love that. But if they're gonna pay for the median, like, could they, if there is a different option, would they, maybe there's a cost sharing possibility, like,
Well, and we're not even 100% sure that they're gonna fully pay for the median, correct?
They said they would pay for the median.
Oh, and if they did it in 2026?
It's just concrete, right?
Yeah.
Jim, are these, I've been looking this over, and if you're turning left onto Capitol, you're not going over the railroad tracks, so I don't understand why we have to extend it, because it's not gonna impede anything on the railroad way. And the same with the other way, if you're gonna turn from Park down onto Capitol, or, I mean, Oakton, you're not anywhere near the railroad tracks again. What's their justification? Did they give us any?
I think they feel that, yes, they were.
Putting a
working
median
around
in and everything, so you can only
We
turn.
don't know if you included it or not, but they feel people are still turning left.
Mm-hmm.
If you're driving from Oakton, driving over the tracks, and then people are still turning left to go to the park.
Well, I can understand the going left after you cross the railroad tracks and turning left onto Capitol, or coming the other way and turning left, because you may back up traffic on the railroad tracks. But the left turns that we're talking about,
Well, no, what he's saying is which I can attest there are, people can still turn left off of if you're heading east on Capitol or Oakton, as soon as you get over the tracks, you could still turn left around the median that's there now. Meaning, I see it, not every day, but at least once a week. Somebody stops to make that left turn, so they want to extend the medians to completely eliminate any possibility of somebody turning left. The byproduct of that, the innocent bystander casualty, is the left turn then on to Capitol. So they're sticking with their original issue of people turning left off of Oakton Capitol onto Capitol, or people turning left off of Oakton onto Clark. By extending these medians, they're just ensuring that you can no longer do that.
Is there documentation that that's been happening to from their standpoint?
I mean, I don't know if there's actual data proven, but I could tell you it happens daily. I mean, we could talk to the police to station an officer there or something. I wish they did. I usually get right behind the person and lay on the horn and keep pointing at the no left turn sign, but it happens more than
Okay, the other question I have.
more than it
is-
should, which is 0.
Is more into why are they insisting that we have to do all this? When here again, I used to drive all of southeastern Wisconsin. And I took pictures of railroad crossings with quad gates, no concrete, no balusters, nothing. I've got one at the end of Glacier Road that has a road that people come over the tracks and you turn left. You go over the tracks the other way and you can turn left. And it's a private resident. But there's no medians in those. There's places elsewhere that have what we have now without the concrete, but the stanchions.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to say that we're being picked on. I'm just saying that this seems to be an overreach, totally overreach, because if we have to live by these rules, then everybody who has a quiet zone or anybody who wants the 4 quad gates or whatever, they should have to have those. Which means if I go down Glacier Road and I want to turn left, I probably won't be able to because they're gonna take out that left turn.
I think this is a case of there's no such thing as a free lunch. You know, we got into bed with the WISDOT and the Railroad Commission when, you know, they applied the grant money and chose our crossings for upgrades. And at the time, we're thinking, hell yeah, free safety upgrades at all of our crossings. This is great. And then, yeah, it just put us right front and center, and they're going to see this job all the way through to their standards, and their standards may have, or obviously, as anyone else, have changed over the years.
Well, it was also the fact that when they were down there looking at the crossings before all this happened, some person decided to make a left turn, did not signal, and they got people backed up on the tracks.
Yeah.
That's when okay, you gotta put those in then.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Like I said, I think it's just because the project was never closed out. The project's continuing, and they're going to see it through to the end. You know.
Well, then I think they should buy that corner building and make the intersection totally different.
You know, this is
so
kind
that we can.
It's kind of the Streisand effect. We didn't really want them to keep looking at this. We wanted to just be done and get the quiet zone. But the fact that we kept, you know, needling them a little bit about finishing this job, it just drew more attention to us. You know, maybe if we put in the concrete medians ourselves 2 years ago or 3 years ago with the previous DPW, and we just bit the bullet on the $100,000 there, we would have fallen off the radar. But unfortunately, we kept pushing to not put a dime to this because we were under the impression that they were going to fund it completely. Well, they are, just to their standards now.
They're basically, as Bob said, and I think someone else had mentioned it, they're taking all the risk off the railroad and now they're pushing it into the village.
Right.
All the safety.
Correct, and that's why I don't. That's why I don't.
We're gonna have more issues with that.
I feel we have a case to argue it here. Maybe not in Matt's definition of a case. I feel like as the court of public opinion, we have a case to say you're just shifting, you're creating a larger safety concern by mitigating a safety assumption or a risk assumption there. You know, like if we don't have the evidence to show that that's the issue, why would you create a much larger safety issue? And so that's why I'm saying, that's why I'm bringing it to us now, so we could start formulating that argument to figure out how we're going to go about this, because I'm not simply going to let them put this in, me personally put this in and go, well, sorry guys, there's nothing we can do, because I can assure you, I doubt any of us are going to get reelected after 2026 if that happens.
So do you want action on this, or do
I
you
don't
want
think
to just?
I don't think we need
discuss?
action. It's more of a staff direction, Matt, unless you feel differently.
No, I mean, I think what you're looking for is staff to put our heads together and come up with some proposals on what to do. I think the consensus is clear that the status quo of what the OCR is proposing and what DOT is gonna, by God, put it in 2026, that's clear. This board does not like it. Now it's up to staff to figure out what, if anything, we can do about it. So from that point, I think, unless the administrator feels differently, I think we have that consensus.
No, I agree.
I do like the idea of like thinking outside the box, just for the record. I know we all do that, but like Dave, like you had mentioned, like whether it's buying a property, rerouting the road, like I think all options should be looked at without, because this is so important to like the longevity in the future.
Would you even have to buy that property? Don't we have like easement rights of some sort?
Well, if you're talking
Totally
about,
thinking down the line, but
if you're talking about relocating the intersection,
You'd probably have to go, it'd probably be gone, the property.
yeah, you'd have to shift that down.
yeah.
But you could go to like that, right? You could go all the way to Ormsby, and then could you even cut across to that alley that then connects to Clark?
Problem is, none of those roads are heavy weighted.
Yeah, it's potentially not gonna be cheap or easy. It
Yeah.
just,
I mean, I'm sure not, but nothing ever is, that's,
But these are options we should put forth to whoever we present it to, saying this is the impact of what's gonna happen by what you wanna do. And these are our proposals and our solutions to fix the issues that you're gonna create. And if we trump up that, it might raise some eyebrows, saying this could.
well, I mean, I think if we just get I mean, in my opinion, if we get a number of what traffic goes down Capitol a day and say, adding that to a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit zone across the beach with a heavy, very heavy pedestrian, area, I don't think that's hard to figure out in the actual DOT street safety realm that
Right.
that's not advantageous.
Right.
So, okay. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you. Okay, under new business, item A, review, discussion, and possible action to approve a request from the Pewaukee Public Library to replace its water softener. Matt?
Thank you, President Knudsen. So 20 years or so ago, when the library was built, it was built with a water softener in place, and staff recently discovered that it wasn't functioning. So the library board considered that issue and decided they wanted to replace it. And pursuant to our joint library agreement and library lease, they are requesting the village cover its 80% of the capital expense. There's a memo in the packet from the library director, Nan, who is in the audience tonight, for any questions that the board might have.
Any questions or comments?
I guess I just have a quick question. Dan, I believe in your letter that you sent, you said that the library has experienced some issues. Could you get into that a little bit?
Sure, so it was first brought to my attention that the water in the toilets was very cloudy. And that's how I started looking at the softener. And with that cloudy water, which is hard water too, there's striations in the toilets now. So there has been some damage to those toilets, I think, with chemicals that can be corrected. But as well, so I think I had the plumbing company come and look at it about 3 times, and they figured out if they manually activated it, they could get it to run, but the problem was it was supposed to be on cyclical automatic cycles for running, and they have not been able to get that to successfully happen again. So, so that was a problem that occurred with looking at the equipment and the age of the equipment and not being able to get that functionality back. That's when they recommended replacement of the equipment. As well, the quote does include, there are 3 bypass levers in that room. About a year ago, we did have a leak in one of those pipes, and I was physically unable to use those shutoffs to stop the water leak, and at that point, it was recommended that I call the fire department, so the fire department actually came in and had to shut down the shutoffs for me. So that's why, as part of this project, that's also included as a recommendation. Without those being operative again, if there's any leaks in the building, I have to go to the main shutoff, which I now know what that is. Shut off all the water, and we would have to close the building, so yes. And I just think, you know, looking at the state of the water in this community, I think a softener is a normal piece of equipment that most people have. And if you look at our building, we don't have any showers. We effectively have toilets and bathrooms and sinks. I think we do average about 300 to 400 people a day come through the building. So those toilets are used on a regular basis, so.
Well, it's not just even the fixtures, it's the plumbing. It's what we don't see. That's gonna be the cost down the road if we don't try to take preventive measures. Because if there's already damage on the actual fixture, that means the calcium buildup in the drains and supply lines is probably there also.
I just have a question and a comment in that, I lived in the home I have now for over 30 years, do not have a softener, still have the lead pipes, I'm sure, and I have no issues with any water stains or anything. I believe our new DPW building does not have a water softener, is that correct? That's correct. Again, that, you know, if we're gonna think about doing that, I could understand why, you know, for a shower or something like that. I'm just having a hard reach to put it in a building that has just, is using it for basically toilets and a bubbler or water fountain. And I don't know, I as you stated before, most homes have it, a lot of homes don't, and I have never heard of anyone having much problem with our water, with the staining and everything like that. Yes.
I may be the exception to the rule, but when I moved into my house, their softener was not working. I didn't repair it for the first 7 years. I replaced all the fixtures in a renovation. They're stained. I had to just have my sewer lateral snaked all the way out to the street because of calcium buildup, because my washer wasn't draining anymore. I was expecting tree roots, and the guy's like, nah, it's just calcium buildup. So maybe I'm the only one, but the hard water at my house has done damage on it. I've already gone through 2 dishwashers before I got the water softener. So I don't know if it's just this part of town or something. I have no idea, but.
Yeah, I don't know. I know I have friends over on the other side of town that don't have one, and they said they have no issues with our water. So I guess I'm just having a hard time justifying $10,000 or $9,000 roughly for a water softener in a library that really doesn't use a lot of water. That's just my feeling.
Is it 7? How much is it?
It's 7, our portion's like 5.
Okay.
Yeah, our portion will be 5.
And I'm sure if you're gonna do the water softener, you might as well replace the 3-way valve for the 750 plus installation. So you're gonna be right up to the 9,000 something.
No, that's included in that. The 3-way valve is included in that quote, because the library board, in considering the proposals, they asked me to include the 3-valve replacement in the quote. So that is included.
Oh, okay.
And that total bid is $7,070, correct? Okay. The village portion of that with the 80% would be $5,656.
Correct.
You know, sorry, I should raise my hand, shouldn't I?
Yeah, it takes a while to get used to it. You'll
They don't pay attention.
They don't pay attention.
revert back to school sooner or later, but it takes a little while.
You had your hand raised, I'm sorry.
I guess I was just gonna say, I don't know why we would take probably one of the nicer buildings in the village and actually decrease the quality of the infrastructure and the water by not keeping it at the same level that it's been in the last 20 years and not replacing a water softener. While I think it might be questionable as far as the overall need for it, I just don't see taking a step back and making our water quality within the library of less quality.
And we probably should have put
For
one in the
$5,000.
DPW building too then.
Pardon?
Should have put one in the DPW building also.
I will compare the number of people in the library versus the
But you
DPW
have
building
showers
every
in the
day.
DPW building. So that makes a totally different situation. For the shower heads and all of that, so.
Dave, if you could get a
Yes,
quote
sir.
for a water
Yeah,
softener, that would be great.
So you brought up an example of your building. It could be completely older plumbing that's manufactured to hold harder water. Being the library being 20 years old, I'm assuming it's using plumbing that's not like that anymore. So my thought process behind this is $5,000 to the village could potentially save much more money in the future.
Okay.
We're not looking at what this cost is now, we're trying to prevent of what the cost could be in the future.
Are there any other comments or questions?
The per monthly fee was something that you've already been paying, correct? Because you've already had a water softener, so that's,
Salt delivery? No. So that will be incorporated into our operations budget. You're looking at the salt delivery person.
yes.
I can help you.
But is the per month, so on this quote here, the per month, the brine system and all of that, that's already something that you have in your budget that you've been doing currently?
No, so the proposal, you could lease the equipment or purchase it.
Okay.
So, the library board their request is that we just purchase the equipment. So that would not be that ongoing fee. The only ongoing fee, which would be incorporated in the operating budget, is the salt delivery.
Physical salt, okay.
And the strong man to put it in the air, so why not? So,
He's not very busy.
I'm right down the street.
so that would be incorporated into our operating budget. And we already have.
You were already doing that because you had a software already, or a softener already, okay.
And two other questions. Matt, you're okay with 100%, I'm talking to this Matt. You're 100% okay with everything you've read?
Yep, so the library director did provide me the standard terms and conditions that go along with the Culligan quote. I've reviewed it, I don't have any issues with them.
And the second one is I did notice that the quote was only good for 30 days, which has been, I think, 2 or 3 weeks ago, so are you gonna have to get a different quote, or did they say they'd still hold it?
I had discussions with the salesperson, and he said he does not see that changing in the next month, but I am delayed now because, it still needs to go to the city at their next regular meeting. I'm assuming that still have the same. But once again, supply chain is very vulnerable, volatile at this point, so never say never, but
Would someone like to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve the request from the Pewaukee Public Library to replace its water softener.
Second, Rhodey.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
And just clarification, do you want to put a cost not to exceed in?
I was wondering on that since you said that the quote has not, or has expired. I mean, I guess I could say not to exceed a 5% adder, but I don't know how the rest of the board feels. that okay with everyone?
I guess I would say, let's go with the bid price. I don't think they shouldn't be changing the price.
I know, I just mean just so she doesn't have to come back if something does happen, but.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'll,
All right, motion to approve the Pewaukee Library purchase of a water softener with a 5% adder if needed.
second read.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and this is all dependent upon what the city does too. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion is hereby carried. Review, discussion, oh, by the way, Nan, great job up there. Very good library. Love it.
Just not the water.
Yeah. Review, discussion, and possible action to approve renewal of alcohol licenses. We have 2 of them this evening. I just lost it.
Did everyone understand my background on that?
What's that?
Did everyone understand my background on my memo? Did they understand why there's only 2 instead of all of them?
There's only 2.
Yeah, so there's only 2 because I recently attended a Department of Revenue liquor licensing class, and they stated if they submitted their permits before April 18th, they need to be approved by June 15th. So since the meeting was on the 17th, that's why I put these 2 on this meeting. So on the 17th will be the rest of them. So that's why there's only 2 right now. We don't just have 2 liquor licenses.
Oh, no, I kind of figured that.
Okay.
Okay, the first one is Costco for Class A. I look for a motion to approve as presented.
Motion to, oh, go ahead.
No, you go.
Motion to approve license as presented.
Second, Kreiser.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Asiana for Class B combination. Look for a motion to approve.
Motion to approve license as presented.
Second.
Did we get a second?
I said second, I'm sorry, second.
okay.
It was
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
sloppy.
you.
Second,
Okay, we have a
Kreiser.
motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is hereby carried. Review, discussion, and possible action on the trapping of muskrats around Bill Brown Island. Those of you who don't know where Bill Brown Island is, it's that little island right out in front of the new businesses that are going in downtown. The beer bar, help me out, Jim.
Roofinity?
Roofinity.
Roofinity, thank you. A few years ago, we put in rocks around it and have saved the property from being destroyed even more by the waves and the ice and everything. Well, now muskrats are there, and for those who lived and live on Pewaukee Lake, they know that muskrats can be really a pain, and they can do some major damage on your shoreline. And what's happening is, again, the muskrats are there, and they are doing damage. Some residents came to me a couple weeks ago and asked if I could see if there was something the village would look into doing. I talked to Matt, and I talked to Charlie Shong, I talked to Tom Kep, and one said use a 12 gauge, the other one said probably using trapping, but he would recommend maybe hiring somebody versus trying to do it on our own. It would be easier, faster. So I'm asking the board to possibly go out to get some quotes on doing possible trapping of the muskrats. I'm not saying that we're gonna do it, but at least we can get some ideas on what it would cost to do that. Are there any questions or comments? Yes?
Yeah, this is interesting. Muskrats were here long before we were. They're gonna be here long after we are.
Not
You
if a
can
12
trap-
gauge has anything to say.
Trap
about it.
as many as you want. They're gonna keep on coming back, okay? As far as I know, the muskrats are not moving the big boulders. okay? They will play with soil, go into soil, okay? But village shouldn't be an extermination business, okay? And I don't think this is good. I don't even want to look at spending any money for the village to take care of this. If there is a person that's concerned about it, I can probably find 10 who love muskrats and think they're really cute, okay? So I don't want to I don't think the village should be involved with this.
It is our property.
I am very much aware of that. And like I said, I don't think the muskrats are moving the big boulders.
I'm just, again, because I haven't been on the lake in a few years, I just have to go by what I hear from residents.
Yeah, and I will tell you, probably the biggest problem we have right now is because the island is really just, it was a hill in a swamp. Now that the lake water is high enough that because of the dam, it's gonna keep on eroding. The only thing that's gonna stop it is the boulders and the things that are being put along there. It isn't the muskrats.
Is there anybody else that would like to make a comment?
All right, so we have one for
Yes, sir.
pro muskrats.
Just real quick, I recently talked to a resident that lives almost directly across from the island, and they asked me what's on the agenda for this evening's meeting, and I mentioned this, and they're like, oh, really? I'm like, have you seen muskrats? Does it bother you? And they're like, not at all. Not at all. So I agree with Trustee Rhodey that it's nature. Let nature be nature.
Yes, ma'am.
You guys might not know this about me. I at one point worked for an animal rescue. So I also agree that the animals, live here too. And I think this is probably reaching from, our jurisdiction of village preservation.
Anyone else? So it sounds like the board is not interested at this time of doing anything to trap or do anything with the muskrats.
I mean, nobody's curious on a price to trap muskrats?
Tell you,
I was just wondering what the number was gonna be.
I had some varmints at my one of my properties, and Northwood's pricing is probably going to be a lot less, but it cost me $1,100 to get rid of.
We just spent 20 minutes discussing $5,000 for a water softener for all of our community members. So, yeah,
Well, and what's
I
it
guess I
gonna
gotta go against it. And I mean, we have muskrats on the south side of Pewaukee as well. They swim in and out of the sewer outfalls all along Park Ave. I mean, as Bob said, we might take the 6 off of that island, and then there's going to be more right back. It's just like beaver dams on the river, until the DNR comes out and says that it's an invasive species like carp and it's a fair game. It's a lake. It's natural.
Well, according to, I want to get this right, it was either Tom or Charlie, if the animal is doing damage to the lake shore, then they are an invasive species and can be eliminated. So, again, I put it on here because I was asked by a resident to at least show it to the board and see what the board feels. And I will go back to them and said, well, at this time, the board does not feel like spending the money. So, thank you for your time. And the next one again, review, discussion, and possible action on directing staff to revise current burning permit ordinances to limit the days for burning permits. Again, this was just one resident that sent me a letter and asked me to please put it on an agenda or discussion. She said that Brookfield has something similar to where you can burn only certain days of the week. And she would like to see something like that added to the village. I'm assuming that somebody in their neighborhood likes to burn a lot, maybe have the little campfires that are a little bigger than normal. I'm not sure, but I just thought I'd bring this up to the board again and say,
Yeah. Take it away, Bob.
Let the old guy on the end talk.
let's see, anybody down here, please?
Just tap it.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes, Robert.
I think you heard me use the phrase "good government" a couple times already tonight. Adding this kind of language, in my mind, is not good government, okay? When you read over the restrictions that we already have in the birding ordinance, I'm going, wow, you can't do much of anything without a fire permit, which shocked me, actually. I thought there were some things you could do. I'm not even sure I could have a barbecue out there without a fire permit. Okay, but I guess I look at adding specific days to this is akin to, I have a neighbor next door who's got a bright light. I don't like that. Can we regulate the wattage on that light? I've got another one that has a dog who comes out early in the morning and barks. Well, can we restrict that too? Too much government is not good, and I think this is an overstep.
Yeah, all it does is create a tension between neighbors. I'm guessing what their problem is the amount of smoke that the fire is generating, and we clearly have that laid out, and that you're not supposed to burn anything green or leaves or what have you. That would be smoke. So it's like all you're doing is creating an avenue for them to address the conflict without actually talking with their neighbor and get us involved in it. And I agree with Bob. There's no reason we should be involved in this and limiting days that you can have a fire outside. And yeah, this is. I'll leave it at that.
Anyone else like to make a comment?
I'm with Bob and Jim. Have the conversation with your neighbor.
Yeah.
Yeah, what are they burning?
I mean, sometimes I don't like it when my neighbor's burning stuff, but
I shut the windows.
it is what it is, and I prefer not to, but sometimes I like it, so it's, and we burn stuff too if we're out working, so,
Yeah,
I mean, it is what it is.
With a permit, of course.
Yes, absolutely.
My neighbor has fires all the time, and I wanted to have the windows open. I went and knocked on the door. And I said, "Can you not burn today?" He goes, "Yeah, sorry about that."
Yeah.
Problem solved.
Like I said, here again, they asked me to put it on, I put it on, and I am finding that the board has no desire to go any further with what they've said.
Don't worry,
and-
Jeff. We're not killing the messenger on this one.
Yeah.
So you're in the clear.
Thank you for listening to the
Yeah.
residents and bringing it to the attention of the board.
Thank you for all your input. Kind of knew it was going to go that way. Okay, item E, review, discussion, and possible action on status and possible settlement of Waukesha County case 2024 CV 1242 Cecilia Senior Homes LLC versus Village of Pewaukee. If required, the Village Board of Village of Pewaukee enter into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute Section 1985 1G for conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy adopted by the body in respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved, specifically regarding the aforementioned case. After conclusion of any closed session, the village board will convene an open session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 1985-2 for the possible addition, review, discussion, and action concerning this agenda item, address the remaining meeting agenda, excuse me.
I'll just introduce the topic.
So I don't think there's anyone here for this topic. So I don't see. Yeah.
So just to make the introduction of the topic for the board and for the public, this is on the agenda regarding litigation that was filed against the village by Cecilia Senior Homes. The board will recall that this property owner came through the appeal process, which we addressed earlier tonight. They went through that process last year, were denied their appeal, and they decided to pursue their objections to the fire and EMS fee in other avenues available to them, one of which is filing an unlawful tax claim under Wisconsin Statute Chapter 70, which they've done. That matter was filed. It is active litigation. The village's insurance company did retain counsel to defend it on this matter. Attorney Steve McGaver is here this evening, and is here to provide the board an update on the status of the matter and to discuss strategy that the village should pursue in litigating this matter in the future, including strategy with respect to possible settlement. So with that introduction, I think it's appropriate for the board to deliberate and confer with council up here this evening in closed session.
Do I have a motion to do so?
Make a motion to move to closed session.
Second, Rhodey.
Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Stauff,
Is that an aye or a yes? Aye.
Yes.
trustee Rhodey,
Yes.
trustee Belt,
Yes.
trustee Kreiser,
Yes.
trustee Grabowski,
Yes.
President Knutson.
Yes, please turn off your microphones and wait. Nobody out there, obviously. There are no citizens here, so item 10 is adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second, Rhodey.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ladies and gentlemen, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you very